All right, guys, welcome to the show this week. I'm excited to bring you guys this week's episode. This week I'm talking with another creator in the space who I've been kind of following along with for a while. They kind of got started just about like almost exactly a year before I started kind of down my journey, and they have a little bit of a team going. There's a couple guys there. And today my guest is the founder, Jeff Roberts of PNWild. So, if you haven't heard of them, you likely have, but if you haven't, they're, based in the Pacific Northwest. They did a film last year that actually won the Western Hunter Film Festival. So they're content creators. They have a podcast. They have some great photography that they do. Just really cool, fun-loving guys. They love to hunt. They love what they do. You can see really in everything, in all their hunts, like their enthusiasm and their love for what they're doing and their friendships. So they're very genuine guys. It took me a while to get Jeff nailed down just because it's hunting season and they've been out there just doing work on some bears. But I've said this before, but some podcasts, just really flow. Some are a little bit not as good necessarily, but me and Jeff just really hit it off. The conversation flowed really well. I enjoyed talking to him a lot, and actually we kind of found out we're going to be hunting a similar area later this year, so we're going to do our best to try to link up. So I hope I can continue continue staying in touch with these guys, maybe even collaborate with them some in the future. They seem like really cool guys, and I had a great time talking to Jeff. So if you haven't heard of PNWild, go check them out. They got a great YouTube channel. On Instagram, they have a lot of content they do. They have a lot of merchandise they sell, and just great guys. So I hope you guys enjoy this week's episode with Jeff Roberts from PNWild, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, guys, I'm here with my guest, Jeff Roberts from PNWild. How's it going, man?
Good. Thanks so much for having me, man. We finally made it happen with our crazy schedules.
I know, man. Well, you guys have been out there like slaying bears left and right, so
I am not gonna, argue with that. It's been crazy and just having an amazing season so far. I don't think we're good at it. We just got lucky, and this year's been been wild.
How many has it been so far?
We have taken 8.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been very, very cool season. I've got one of my best friends, his very first big game animal on opening day. Nice. And then that same weekend, it opened on a Monday. And then that weekend, I took my wife into the same area and got her very first big game animal. And it happened to be like the biggest bear any of us have ever seen. It was just an ancient thing. It's got no teeth. It was an incredible experience, incredible hunt. And then that was just the start, man. And then since then, awesome. Our whole group, you're allowed 2 tags in Washington State over the counter. There's 3 of us in PNWild, and all 3 of us have filled both of those tags. So counting everybody, it's been 8 bears this fall. It's been pretty crazy.
That's awesome, man.
Very cool.
What is that you're drinking? Is that just a glass of bear fat you're drinking?
I kind of look like it, huh? No, my wife got me hooked on these like homemade cold brews, and then it's just heavy cream. So just little coffee and heavy cream.
Nice, man. Well, you guys are probably do you keep your bear fat and render it down and all that stuff?
Oh yeah. I just got
cracklins.
Oh, definitely, dude. It's so good. And then I will give you a hot tip though. If you eat the cracklins, just beware of some gnarly backfires that evening. You start putting out some gas, man.
I bet. Yeah, this is the first year I ever had like bear meat cooked out in the field and ate the crack. It was so good, man.
Oh,
it's better when you're out there and hungry and
Yeah, dude, I'm with you. It's so good, and I know we've talked about it just time and time again, just the buddies and or just fellows and friends and just acquaintances. Like, where do you think this conversation started that bear meat isn't edible or that it's not good? And it happens everywhere I go. Like, folks at work or just friends that are not familiar with hunting and or people on the trail. Like, this is the first time in a couple of years where we had a pretty bad encounter on the trail. I was packing out my bear, and I wouldn't say it's a bad encounter, but it was the first negative encounter of the season. we're most of the time we're utilizing pretty heavily trafficked trails to get back in, and then we'll go off trail, of course, and to get up into remote basins and remote spots of the backcountry, and of course we're going to utilize those trailheads and systems. And we kind of hit a junction where we're meeting back up with the main trail, which is pretty heavily trafficked. And we cut in front of, like, unbeknownst to us, we were just coming right into the trail because we can't see the trail. We just kind of came down the hill and we landed on the trail, and probably 30, 40 yards behind us was a couple hiking. And so we hit the trail. We're pretty gassed, and we're going to take a break. We hit the trail, and we're going to let these folks go ahead of us. And we just kind of waved them by, and they saw the rifles, and they're like, well, what are you guys doing? It's not hunting season. And hunting season's been open for 40 days.
Yeah.
And, instantly.
Because they know, of course.
Exactly. Yeah. Instantly, you kind of feel like, just attacking back, and that's never the right thing to do. So we decided to kill him with kindness and sure, just kind of take the high road. And we're like, it's actually been open for about 45 days now.
Yeah.
And, and they're like, well, what are you guys hunting? And it was bear. And they're like, oh, did you guys get one? And I just kind of turned around. I had the head of my backpack, and they just kind of both just kind of get shocked. And they were like instantly on the attack mode on us when, like, we take pride in doing everything the right way and doing it legally and doing, getting in there and working for it,
Yeah.
And these guys, we kind of calmed them down and broke the ice with them. And we're like, well, what are you guys doing up here? And they're like, oh, we just climbed, we were just mountain climbing on the way in mountain climbing. And so it kind of broke the ice, and I was kind of like easing the situation. I'm like, well, I could never do something like that, kind of giving them that upper hand. Yeah. Like, you guys are crazy, that kind of stuff. And then they kind of turned it around on us, and we're like, yeah, we just weren't really expecting to, hear gunshots when we're up here in our backyard and just kind of playing. And I was like, well, we all have to share this backyard. This is all public lands, and, we're utilizing it a different way. And we take pride in harvesting our own meat and bringing it home to our family. And after this kind of 5 to 10 minute conversation about like sharing the public lands, it's like, you choose to do what you do on public lands, and we're going to utilize it for what we want to do on public lands. And kind of that's where we found that common ground. And at the end of the conversation, they were like, I'm sorry for coming off kind of hot, enjoy your afternoon. It was kind of an eye-opening experience for them. And they were probably, early 40s, I would guess.
Okay.
And for them to be so, out of touch with like hunting, hunting, and especially in the towns that we're in and the, Eastern Washington side, it's kind of more, obviously you're going to come across hunting more so than on the West side, like you were close Seattle, Bellevue, but it was kind of surprising, but it was good for us to kind of have these conversations with folks.
Totally.
And kind of educate when you see an opportunity to educate. And it was kind of fun. And at the end of the conversation, they were like, hey, sorry, enjoy your afternoon. Congratulations on your hunt. And so it was ultimately a good conversation. But in the very beginning, it could have went a very bad direction if we chose to kind of like butt heads, right? Hey, hunting season's not open. And if we just automatically go back and just like start with a hard-headed argument and, call them names or whatever, like, hey, you moron, or, we didn't decide to do that. We decided to go the high road and kind of educate.
Yeah.
And I think it's an important thing that we have to do, because let's say we did go that route and call them morons or goofballs or something like that. Then they're just going to go back into town, tell all their friends that all hunters are jerks. They just ran into hunters and, and now the conversation probably goes, when they're back at, in town, and they're like, hey, we ran into some really cool guys up there. It kind of started us when we're climbing or when we're doing our thing and they were shooting, but we ran into them on the trail, and you know what? They were good guys. That's the conversation. That's kind of encounters that we really need to have out there.
Totally.
So it was the only negative one in the beginning that we've had all season. And it was the very last one. It was the final bear of the year and packing it out. And we just got into, it was like, kind of caught us off guard, because this immediately just started attacking us. Like, what are you guys doing? It's not hunting season. Yes, it is.
No, you guys handled it well, and it's so important, like you said, to be good ambassadors, and you don't want to come across as a jerk. Because I mean, if you have no exposure to hunting, and you see somebody with a head hanging off their backpack, especially bear, like people get more touchy, I feel like, about bears.
Yes.
And that's probably where some of that stuff, the preconceived notions about bear meat not being good and stuff, because they look like dogs or they're predators or whatever. But you guys handle it really well, so that's good to hear, man. Do you guys, the part of the country you guys are in, like you have some militant like type, gender confused people out there.
Yes, man. And no, you're 100%
Do you have
right.
a lot of run-ins with people, or you said that was just the one you've had? Have you had more in the past?
Yeah, there's been a couple times where I would say it's about once a year is about average for us. And typically, if we don't have an animal on our back, then the conversation's never had. They're just like, they don't even look at you when you're on a trail. They see that you guys have camo on, you're carrying rifles, and they'll just act like you're invisible, and they'll just check right by you. And I'll always say like, hey, good morning. And they'll just ignore me. And it's like, how could someone do that? Like, like I'm so opposite. I'll talk to a rock, for hours. And I always try to disengage with people, and I'll say, hey, good morning, or have a good day. And they'll just jet right by you. But most of the time, like this year, was incredibly positive until that last encounter where, we use these trails like daily. We'll go in and out and, in and out several times, and you'll run into tons of folks, especially on like you said, we're in the Pacific Northwest, and anything from from an hour to 5-hour drive of Seattle's totally doable for most folks. And outdoor recreation has just boomed since COVID.
Yeah.
Last year and this year especially, well, it's not a surprise to trailheads that we've been using for 10 years that used to have 1 or 2 cars in them. Now the trailhead is full and there's cars going down the road, on the side of the shoulder. So it's not a huge deal to see, 40, 50, 60 rigs at a trailhead anymore.
Yeah.
And it's so bad on like I-90 where they're just
like a hunting truck or like a Subaru, probably.
Yeah, I've been thinking about ditching the truck and getting like a Prius and putting like an REI sticker on it. Yeah. Because now it's just so common that, people see your vehicles. And I had a note on my truck last year, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I used to have like stickers on it and stuff,
What did the note say?
It was just, it was the kid's name. And he said, hey guys, from his name. And I was like, oh shit. It was the weekend I killed a giant bear too. It's like now he knows where I was at.
Oh, okay. I got you. I thought it was like a hippie hate note.
Oh no, it was another hunter, and okay. But yeah, definitely. Like they say you have a big diesel truck, and they see you pull up, and you're jumping out with camo. Immediately, you get the glares, and like, oh, these guys are here. And one of the encounters we had, this was several years ago, probably like 2015. We were coming down from a bear hunt in the Baker area, Mount Baker, West Side stuff, and we're coming down off of a trailhead, and there's like, oh my gosh, this one trailhead probably has 100 vehicles, or throughout the day. And they just came straight up to us like, what do you guys have guns out here for? You're not allowed to have guns in the park. And we're like, we're not in a park. Like, what are you talking about?
So ignorant, and they just act like they know exactly what they're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the exact same thing happened to Zach, a member of PNWild last year, on a bear hunt coming down. And they were like, hey, you're not allowed to hunt in the park. And Zach was like, I'm actually not in the park. And they're like, well, yes, you are. He had to get out his, mobile mapping system and show the person. It was like, I know exactly where I'm at. You don't know where you're at. I am not inside of a national park. The boundary is on the top of that ridge, a couple of miles away. Yeah. And they were just like completely blown away. And still after Zach showed them on a map where they were, like, she still wouldn't buy it. She's like, nope, you're wrong. I'm calling the authorities when I get to my vehicle. And he's like, go for it. Like, there's just no winning. Yeah, there's just no winning sometimes. But I don't want to focus on those negative encounters. We've had a lot of really good ones. And some of the ones where you don't see going well when you're walking up to them. And then they'll just completely surprise you. And they'll be like, whoa, you guys are hunting bears? I've never had bear. And they're like, actually, we got sausage in the truck. You want to try some? And they're like, yeah. It's nice. Really cool. It's really cool. Sometimes
it's cool when you can bridge that gap, man.
For sure, dude. And then once you start mentioning like sharing public lands, doing it for the organic food, and you have sight and visual of that meat from the time you harvest it to the time you put it in the freezer, it kind of like the light bulb kind of goes off, because all these people are going to like the co-op for their food, like the best organic food you can get. And then so once you mention
98% of them are eating meat anyway, which the commercial meat industry is way more inhumane than hunting ever will be.
Oh, absolutely. So once you start talking like that and mentioning these things where they can actually kind of connect with you, I think the light bulb kind of goes off and they come to our side, or they like understand and they'll support us. Where a handful of the people, which is like the 1%ers, are just completely against it. They think you're an animal. And I kind of do cringe a little bit when you run into them and they're like, hey, what are you hunting? I know when I'm like, ugh, bear, like you don't want to say it because you just know you're gonna get like a, oh my god, do you even eat bears? You just trophy hunters. It's like, yes, we eat bears. Like sometimes I just want to say deer, even when the season's not open and you're like, well, they'd never know. But then you're like, oh, there's some guy up there hunting deer. It's like, shit, you got to just say bear, and then you just wait for the cringe moment. Like, oh, yeah, you're totally right, man. Bears are touchy subjects, especially. I don't know what it is. It's like
bears and wolves, man. They just light people up.
Oh, for sure, dude.
I guess because they look like dogs.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. And then like the Coca-Cola bear, Smokey the bear. There's like, hey, boo boo, all that guy. And there's so many like,
for sure,
connections to bears, and I think people are just so connected to them for some odd reason.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, yeah, I joke about those types, but definitely, for everybody listening, like use every opportunity you get to do what these guys do and turn it into a positive experience. You can actually have some really cool experiences with people. Like Jeff's saying, most people are not. There are those 1% that are just haters and doesn't matter what you say, but most people will have a conversation with you. And so if you're respectful and kind and you're operating legally and ethically, like it can be really cool. So but yeah, man, I'm glad you guys are having a great season. I'm glad you could join me. Do you remember meeting me briefly at Expo last year?
I do, yeah. I remember running into you down there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I'd love to just hear a little bit about starting PNWild. I think you founded PNWild, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and when did you guys start, and what was kind of the mission? How's that evolved? And where you guys wanted to take it?
For sure, man. First off, thanks so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad we can kind of finally make it happen and line up schedules. I know I've kind of had to delay, and it's just been so wild with trips coming up, and I leave Friday for Wyoming for an elk hunt. So
I'm leaving for Wyoming on Thursday.
Nice, man. Elk or going for deer?
I'm doing antelope right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Fun. I got my first antelope in Wyoming in 2020, and it was amazing. I can't wait to go back, and I'm just so excited. My office is just a complete explosion.
Yeah, this guy was 2021.
Oh, nice, dude.
Yeah,
you're going back already.
One. Yeah, I'm actually the storyline behind this one is that I'm going to a 0.100% draw unit to show that it can be done.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah.
That's a nice looking goat behind you too, man.
Yeah, he was good, man. That was just a 1-point unit, and did it with my cousin, and yeah, we had a great time. It was such a fun hunt, man.
I know. They're so antelope is so cool, and it was so cool to just hunt a new species and just kind of see how it goes.
Sure.
And they're a fun hunt. Like there's some hunts that are just a complete grind, and I feel like antelope are one of those where you can kind of like truck camp and not feel like you're missing out. We got to get way back there.
Right.
But no, like antelope, you can just kind of truck camp and do your thing and feel like you're doing the hunt justice. You're not missing out on anything in the backcountry.
Dude, even the spot I'm going, like even if I wanted to get way back there, like there is no way back there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, back to the question at hand. Sorry, rabbit holes, man. Podcast.
No, that's good. I like it.
So I kind of started Pacific North Wild. It was just it started as an Instagram page, and it started as like a repost page in 2016. Born and raised, obviously the huge inspiration. Hush, huge inspiration. And I didn't have like a key group of dudes. I was just so crazy passionate about it. And of course I wanted to start like a page and start sharing Washington stuff. Nothing was going on in Washington yet. No one had a big page that was like kind of sharing stuff or just, showcasing Washington's, backcountry hunting or hunting in general. And so I started.
It's kind of a part of the country that's a little bit overlooked in a lot of ways.
100%. Yes.
Which I want to dig into a little bit later, but go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. No, you're 100% right. And so no one really was doing anything with Washington yet. Oregon had Born and Raised. Utah, he's got, Hushin. Idaho, Casey's from Idaho, which is Hushin. And then there's some other groups, like over the Hunting Public, this Eastern, Mid-Eastern. So stuff like that. And I was like, well, let's start something up here in Washington, start showcasing. We'll just share pictures, and started off just growing super slowly. And I was just like, hey, DM your pictures, that kind of thing. And we'll showcase Washington and what we have to offer. And then trips kind of progressed, and I drew an elk tag. It's called a quality elk here in Washington State. And that's just the quality means it's the rut tag. So it's the prime rut. So they call it a quality elk tag.
Cool.
And so I drew that, took 14 points, and I drew
Whoa.
my first quality elk tag, which means eastern side of the mountains.
So 14 years you were saving up for that.
Yes, 14 years saving up for it. Never killed an elk before, never even hunted elk before, just been banking points. And then I finally applied it, and I drew my number one choice unit, archery, east side, any elk in this particular hunt. And so I posted on a local forum in Washington State, and I was like, hey, drew this tag. Would love to team up with somebody who has some knowledge and maybe go hang some cameras, go scouting, do some stuff. And I got hit up by Zach, who is now part of PNWild.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, hey, man, I have 15 points. I didn't draw. I hunt solo. I'd love to go hang cameras with you and kind of learn, show you what I know, and you could show me what you know. And then maybe I'll hunt with you and I'll call for you or something. We're both kind of solo dudes. And I was like, sure, man, let's meet up. So never met this guy. He's like my exact age. And he's like, well, let's just meet up at a local Safeway. I'll jump in your truck and we'll go scout for 5 days. I was like, perfect. What could go wrong here?
Yeah.
He jumps in and we just immediately hit it off, man. First time ever meeting this guy. He jumps in my truck and we head east and we start scouting. And it was like, there was never those moments where you're like, could this guy do that? Or I can't keep up with him, or, he can't keep up with me. There was no awkward conversations. It was just two dudes completely, strangers at one point that are just insanely obsessed with hunting. And we've each never killed an elk yet. And I had the tag this year. He didn't. But we decided to, long story short, we fast forward a couple months. We ended up doing that hunt together. He called in my bull for me. I shot a 260-inch 7x7, had some extra, like some crown tops on like day 13. And he just grinded it out with me. We had an amazing time. Ended up changing Pacific Northwild from a repost page to all in-house content. In middle of that scouting, after drawing that tag, I was like, I'm going to buy a camera and I'm going to do this all myself. I'm going to be the, curator of this page. And it's just going to be all of our content. I'm going to learn cameras. I'm going to learn how to edit. I'm going to learn everything by myself. And I went to YouTube University and learned everything.
Nice.
I learned
awesome,
everything
dude.
myself. Kind of with that route. And then the following
just
year,
to jump in, a lot of people think like that, guys like y'all or whatever, have had this, some kind of school or like formal training and stuff. It just goes to show that like the resources are out there. If you want it bad enough, like you can teach yourself. And a lot of guys just, at the end of the day, like they might go out and get some great footage, or they sit behind that computer to edit where where the magic really happens. Yes. And it's just kind of like,
dude,
they realize this is going to take hours, like days. And they're like, I quit.
Yeah, dude, 100%. And I was there so many times where, I fired up Premiere Pro for the very first time. I did the research. I knew what I wanted to get. I wanted to just like, I'm going to go Adobe. I don't want to try anything else. I want to make sure I'm using the right stuff. And that's been kind of my vision the whole time, is try to keep the highest quality I possibly can, because that's how you're going to kind of set yourself apart from others, because now there's so many people doing what we do, which is so awesome. And like we have such a huge community. It's the best community out there, and there's so many people out there doing it, and there's so many groups trying to share their content and share their adventures, which is freaking sweet. My favorite thing to do on YouTube ever is just go watch hunting. So the more content creators we have out there, is the more we get to consume. Right. And it's great. So I love it. But there's so many folks doing it, and you have to set holy cow, I can't say that sentence. You have to set yourself apart somehow. Right. And I was like, well, let's just make sure we have the highest possible quality that I can produce. And that's why I changed it from a repost page to all in-house content. I started photography. I started on videos. I started editing all of ourselves. And that very next year, after I killed my bull, Zach drew it with 15. So he got to hunt it that very next year. I got to film it, and he killed like a 315 bull on like day 8 or 7, something like that. And so it kind of just really paved the way for us with those 2 big hunts. We kind of had a group together, and there's been some guys that have jumped in, helped out for a couple seasons or a season, and then they kind of drift away, where it's like, hey, they either they don't like it. They don't, the number one thing Patrick was a huge contributor of the group. And in 2020, at the end of the season, he was just like, hey, it's kind of too much to keep up with. Like the vision of PNWild is going to here. And I kind of just wanted to hunt, and that's where it was, where maybe it was, like families couldn't keep up with it, or you're just, dedicating too much time to it. And there was issues there. I don't know if there was issues there, but like, that's kind of thing where, you kind of get to that point where it becomes a little bit of work, when you can't just, like, an example I get to use is you're glassing a ridgetop in the mornings, sun's coming up. You just want to sit there and enjoy this and glass and enjoy the moment, where you and I, now we have to grab a camera and work.
Yeah. Right.
You can't, sometimes you have to clock in and go, shit, that's right, I got to work right now. I got to take pictures. I got to take videos. I got to document
20
this.
extra pounds of gear.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes people think it's great until they do it and they're like, you know what, I don't want to do this. It's kind of ruining the whole reason why we hunt, to disconnect and become one with the earth and kind of, sink into nature. And I do agree. Sometimes, like, there's a couple hunts out of the year when I go with my wife where I leave the camera at the truck and it's freaking awesome, until you see something special when you're like, oh, I wish I had my camera. I wish I had my camera. It's a blessing
and a curse, man.
It really is, man.
Yeah.
So there's that fine line you got to find. And that's the one thing I'd recommend is be sure that, that's something that you're completely passionate about, is also the photography, videography side, which luckily I completely love it. And I have no problems taking cameras and doing those kind of things when you're back there. But sometimes it does feel like a little bit more work. And that's that dangerous line that you got to ride. Rabbit hole again. I don't know where I was going with that, but
it's good.
I think that was just kind of the birth of.
You're talking about some people kind of coming and going, and
yeah. So that line of work and play and pleasure kind of gets jumbled up, and a lot of people that kind of jump into it, they find themselves in that little fine line tornado, and sometimes it's too much, or they're like, yeah, this is what I live for. And that's so right now there's 3 of us, and there's been 3 of us for the last 2 seasons. It's Bobby and Zach and myself. Yeah. And they've all been there since the beginning. I've actually hunted with Bobby the longest, but he was kind of hesitant to get into it for those exact reasons. Yeah. He was like, I don't really know if I want to be, like, I'll hunt with you guys. I'll be there with you forever. I've hunted with Bobby the longest since like 2011, and starting PNWild, he was supportive and just didn't know if he wanted to be a part of it because he didn't want to kind of mesh that work play. I don't want to carry cameras. I don't want to be on a camera. I just kind of want to hunt, enjoy it. And that's why we love Bob. He doesn't give a shit, and he will shoot anything that's legal. Like he's never after any kind of big, doesn't set high standards. Like, I'm shooting a 180 this year. Never. If it is legal, Bob is shooting it, and we love him for it. And we always tease him, like, Bob, you holding out this year? And he'll just laugh. He's like, no, if it's legal, I'm putting it in the freezer.
Yeah.
And that's his mindset. So we all balance each other out, and it's really cool. And I'm just so blessed to have the guys with me, and it's totally a team effort. And I'm so, like, thankful for them and to have them. And I know more than anyone how, amazing it is to really have a special hunting partner that doesn't, kind of hold you back or you bump heads with. And if, like, hey, you want to go right, but they want to go left, it's not an argument. It's all right. Let's go this, like, we'll just, it's just a natural thing. And we get messages all the time, like, how do I find someone like that? And that's the one question I don't know. I don't know that answer, and I feel bad for folks that don't have hunting partners.
It's
like
a special thing that
it really is, man.
Yeah. There's really no, like, way to find, except for just put yourself out there, be willing to meet that guy at Safeway and jump in this truck and go for 5 days. And it might work out. It might not, but you just got to keep trying. It's like, I don't know, you just got to put yourself out there, but it's a special thing, man. It's something that I have been kind of, like, hoping for and praying for, is just, like, to find that, because it's not easy to find, and especially as, like, a founder of, like, a business. At the same time, it's like, it's also your baby, and it's not easy to trust people with your brand either. Like,
exactly,
like, not just a hunting partner, but it's like, okay, like, am I entrusting this guy with like the content, the vision I have, whatever. And that's where it gets even harder because, it's hard enough to find a good hunting partner, like you said, but to find someone who can also buy into your vision and be a teammate is really tough. So I want to ask you about that, but real quick, do you have another job too, or are you full-time in PNWild or?
Yes, I do have another job. The goal is eventually to be full-time PNWild, but right now I am a trainer at Boeing, so the aircraft company.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, talk a little bit about that, about building a team, because that's something I struggle with. Is less. I mean, doing what we do is so hard to do by yourself.
It is incredibly hard, man. Like, so complete hats off to like Remy and Tim who like built a company on that.
Yeah.
It's insane.
But still Remy and Tim. There's two of them.
That is true. But they always did it by themselves. You're right.
Right.
So, but like that, maybe behind the scenes editing, maybe they teamed up and did stuff. Yeah. But like in the field, like that is so incredibly hard. Yeah. And my buddy Josh Kirchner, he does it solo a lot too.
Right.
And he just did an awesome trip down to Utah and killed a muley buck by himself and filmed everything.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's like, oh my gosh, dude! Like I can't imagine having to do everything by yourself and not to. I mean, I guess there's got to be perks to being solo. Like there is no, hey, do you want to go this way? It's just I'm going the way I want to go. Yeah. But I kind of like bouncing ideas off each other. And
I enjoy sharing the experience with somebody.
Dude, and that's the number one thing for me. Like I'm such a people person and social butterfly. Like I could talk to a stranger for hours. Clearly, I'm doing it now.
I can tell.
But that's what I love too. Is like it's so awesome to immerse yourself in the outdoors and to be on an amazing adventure. But to experience that alone, you'd have to be a special person, because I would way rather look to my left and see Bobby and look to my right and see Zach, and we're both seeing this crazy thing. Like, oh my God, that bull's right there screaming. Can you believe this? I'd way rather have that than to just experience it yourself. Like there's some people out there that are just killers by themselves and prefer to do it. And I am just not that guy. That's a special trait, and I do not have it. But back to your question, building a team. I think it's important that I did it. Like I had these guys before PNWild. I had my hunting partners and my key group before the company, because now if I was like you in a situation where maybe like you're still waiting for it, but you have like your baby, your brand, you're never truly going to know if they want to hunt with you because of this company that you've created. Like, hey, I want to get in front of a camera, or I want these perks. Like he gets discounts. You're never going to really know if they're in it for the right reasons is my big fear. Like if we wanted to expand and get someone to come just film for us or do stuff like that, you're like, are you there because you truly love the outdoors and you love filming? Or are you there because you want a discount on a gear, or, you want this, you want that? Like, what are your motives? And that's a really tough thing now, is that you've established something that people would love to be a part of. And it's very flattering. It's awesome. But you have to remember that when, like you said, the biggest thing is it's your baby. Are you comfortable with this person representing your brand? Are you comfortable with this person being out there when you're not around, do
you ever get to that point where you are comfortable, or is it still kind of like, you're like the whole time?
Exactly, man. Yeah. You never, in our industry, if you make one mistake, it's all gone. Or it can be,
Yeah.
If you read your go hunt maps wrong, and you're like, okay, yeah, there he is right there, and you shoot an animal and it's it's private land, or
it's like boom, he's a poacher, you're done.
Exactly, everything's gone. I mean, but
like one mistake, man.
Yeah. Ryan Callahan did it last year and openly talked about it on his podcast, where he shot an antelope in Wyoming, and it was a poached antelope, and obviously he came out and did everything the right way. And obviously he's still around and doing things. So it can be done, but you're so scared to make a mistake or put this trust in someone's hands that you've never met with a career or a company that you've literally built from the ground up. From an Instagram page to wherever it is now. And I'm sure you're in the very similar boat, where you just started this journey and now you're at where you have a very successful company and a podcast, and a lot of people are looking up to you, where if like I was a part of your group and I run out there and shoot 3 ducks over my limit, like who knows? And I'm arrested, and I don't know if you get arrested for that kind of shit, but if you did, right, I'm dragging you down, like there goes your name, and you're like, crap, man, you got to put out some big PR thing. I don't know. It's just,
I even like doing podcasts with certain people, like just being associated and like just pisses people off, and like, I've done a couple recently where I just put out like just said something in my intro like that I was just like, guys, like I want to talk to people in the outdoor industry. Just because I like have a conversation with someone does not mean that I condone or agree with everything they do or say. Like, I just want to talk to people in the outdoor industry. Like, if you don't like this guy, fine, but like I'm just talking here.
Yeah, if you don't like this
people guy, get so like they get so mad if they don't like the way a certain person hunts or something.
Yeah, and I don't get that. Like, if you don't like this person, skip the episode. If you don't like me, listen to the next episode. Like, it's like, how is that so hard to do?
Yeah.
But like I said, this industry is a special one. It's very small. Like, we met at Salt Lake City. That is our industry. Like, if you're at Salt Lake, that's basically our entire industry. You're missing some big key players, but realistically, that's it.
Yeah.
Like everybody's there at that expo. And that's how, like, puts it in perspective. Like, that room is a huge part, probably 85% of the hunting industry, so
Western hunting industry, which Western I found hunting, is a different like sphere than like the Eastern whitetail industry.
Whitetails, turkeys. Yeah. Yes, you're completely right there.
It's like a niche Western within a niche.
It really is, dude. It really is, especially that like Western. That I never even thought about that, but yes,
and people get butt hurt way easier in the Western hunting niche too. I found.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Like if you like talk shit about elk or mule deer or something, like that kind of butt hurt, or what do you?
I don't know. I just feel like, I mean, the very beginning, like I feel like it didn't matter what I say because no one was listening anyway. But just like the more, I'm not saying I'm big at all. I'm not. But like the more people are starting to listen to me, like you just get this like, and I know you know what I'm talking about. This sense of like you just got to be careful what you say. Even like people just get very. There's just a lot of emotion in outdoors and hunting. I'm not, I think it's something that people hold very dear to them. It is a sacred thing, taking an animal's life. So, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You definitely want to have reverence, but I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of sensitivity and just that kind of thing. I don't know.
No, I think you're on that right path there. There for sure is some kind of weird aura around harvesting an animal, and like you don't get that when you watch Jimmy Chin's live stream talking about summoning some peak where there's people in the background. They're like, hey, he didn't do it right, he didn't clip in at the right time. Like no one does that. But if you see a guy on a forum that rode a bike on a wilderness trail, they're gonna hang that guy out to dry. And the guy could just been like, he didn't know, he's just starting. Didn't know you couldn't ride a bike on a wilderness, or didn't know he couldn't clear a trail with a chainsaw, in the wilderness. But we have to be better to each other, and like we all rise with the tides rather than you guys see Jeff make one tiny mistake. It wasn't poaching, but he rides a bike on a wilderness and like, hey, this guy's a loser. Let's like make sure he never does everything ever in his life again.
Crucify him.
Yeah. It's like, holy shit, guys, let's calm down a bit here.
Yeah.
But totally, man, there's that aura around it for some reason. And I don't really know why. I think maybe it's just like a jealousy thing. Like
it's got a big part to do with it.
I think it does. Like, why does this guy deserve a 380-inch bull when I out there bust my ass and I can't see a bull? And then this is why, because he rode a bike on the wilderness. He's not supposed. You guys see this? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be like little things like we're like big egotistical men, and like everyone wants to be successful. We all think we bust our asses, and then we see, you come back from a failed hunt, if you will, and then you're scrolling on Facebook and you see a guy with a 380 bull and he rode a bike, and you're like, oh, there it is. Hang him out to dry.
And I get it. It's a delicate resource. It's a delicate thing. Like I said, it's close to people's hearts. It is a sacred thing. I understand it. I just think that and obviously, like, I'm not condoning any type of like sketchy, illegal, or any type of unethical behavior, but I think there definitely is room. I think there's just a lot of toxicity and infighting when we have enough enemies as it is outside the hunting industry. Like, we need to do everything we can, as long as people are being ethical and legal, to let little stuff go and not just hate on each other so much.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I say this example of this guy riding a bike is because I literally saw this post yesterday. And we have a hunt here in Washington. It's called the high buck hunt, and it's wilderness areas only. So actual national forest wilderness areas. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about my definition or my dad's definition of wilderness. It's his designated wilderness areas only. And a guy posted a picture of his first high buck hunt on a local page on Facebook. And he said, rode a bike to the boundary 4.5 miles and then hunted in. And there's a picture of him on like a dirt bike, like a motorized dirt bike. And then, a couple pictures of his buck, and then a picture of him packing out his buck on the dirt bike. And in his post, he said he did it the right way, like rode my motorcycle to the boundary and then hiked in. But the first 200 comments were all like, hang this guy out right now and lash him, right? Throw rocks at him because he cheated. And it's like, no, he didn't. Read his post.
Read it.
And it's just it was the guy's very first high buck hunt. He was successful, and it's a stud buck. Immediately you trigger people that have hunted it for 10 years and not successful. And then like now they're just casting their stones at this guy because he had a motorcycle in his picture. Right. And people are immediately, they turn into state patrol and they want to go arrest him. And that's our infighting. When if you just calm down, if you don't understand, maybe ask the guy before you publicly embarrass yourself because you can't read. There's a lot of things out there like that. And I can't imagine that the snowboarding, industry, the rock climbing industry, even the backpacking or peak bagging, rock climbing, backcountry skiing, are they like this? Are they doing these things? Like, you're not truly a badass because you took a helicopter in there.
Yeah.
Like, do we do that to each other there? I don't know. I'm not in those industries.
I don't know.
The some of the stuff I see is so damn like, guys, we got to be better. Like, we got to do, like you said, man, we have enough people after us. In Washington, we just got our spring bear season taken away. Yeah. We have bigger enemies. We have bigger fish to fight than each other.
Just how did they get rid of spring bear and not fall?
That's what I'm scared of, man. They put up they blindsided us back last year and just put a pause on our 2022 spring bear season. A pause. I do the air quotes because it's gone. It's completely gone. I'm very confident that we lost it, but they said it's paused for this year. And they had a couple meetings about it and said that the bears were lethargic. They were easy to target. We were killing sows with cubs, which is not true. The Department of Fish and Wildlife came back and rebutted against all these arguments. So the WDFW was absolutely on our hunting side. And they said out of the 136 bears harvested, only 136 in our spring bear season because it's a draw system. Out of the 136 bears harvested in 2021, one of them was a confirmed wet sow, which means she possibly could have had a cub and we didn't know, like the shooter did not know, or the cub did not make it and it died, or it was killed by a big boar. And that's why the sow was alone. We don't know the reason why the cub wasn't there, or if the hunter just, I do
got to ask though, do you think that, and I'm not condoning taking away spring bear, but do you think that has any reason why you saw so many bears this fall?
I would say that there is definitely, I have one big rebuttal to that, but it would kind of elude where we are at in the state. So I don't want to answer that completely. But there is I'll just say this. There are some units in the state that do not have a spring bear season. And some of those units is where I've been kind of farting around, and they don't have a spring bear season, and they never have had a spring bear season. So no, that argument would be null and void for those parts of the state. But there has been, I know some folks that do hunt the areas where there are spring bear seasons, and they are reporting the same thing. Lots of bear activity, lots of bears out wandering around. And maybe there is truth to that, where they haven't been targeted at all this year. They haven't been spooked. They haven't been smelling humans.
Yeah.
And then August 1st, they just, open the floodgates on them, and we popped 8 of them. So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to make a huge impact on fall bear hunting, but I'm very curious to see the success rate of 2022 next spring when they release the harvest numbers. I'm very interested on what some of those units are reporting and if this made a difference at all. If
it's interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, man. It's hard.
I don't want to go too deep. Yeah, I don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole. I do want to go back to. I'm just interested. What is your long-term vision for PNWild?
Long-term vision. I think just do what I love to do as much as possible and tote around a camera and document what I love to do as long as I possibly can. And if that leads me down a path where I can make a living from that, then great. If that leads me down a path where I just have to continue where I'm at Boeing, I'm doing pretty well. I don't hate my job. I've been there for 12 years and I'm in a salary position. I have lots of time off. It's a pretty cool gig and I can continue doing this on the side, then I'll be tickled pink. If one day I can get to that point where it can support my family, it can support my, kids' outdoor activities or sports and whatever, and everyone has health insurance, then I will jump as soon as I possibly can. With that being said, I think the ultimate goal is to get to that point where I can support my family off of it and just do what I love to do more than anything and be able to make a paycheck doing that. But other than that, the realistic, the peak for me, I'm already there. I'm doing what I love to do. The company's doing great. We're supported by awesome partners and we get to hunt for, basically free. All the company pays for itself. My Wyoming tag is paid for. I don't have to take that out of my family's, money or off the table from the family. And so it's a very easy argument with your wife. And you're like, hey, I'm not paying for this. Can I go? That's definitely a perk. But right now it's just all going back into the company and we're living it up and it's freaking awesome, but it's not paying any of our mortgages. And that's why we're in that position where we can just, come out with a collaborative knife and come out with hats and Nalgene's and do lots of merch and buy new camera gear and new computers because it's not paying mortgages. And I think it's a very cool spot to stay at right now, where if my family's health and insurance was riding on it, we'd be a lot more careful, not spending money on new Macs and new lenses and new computers and camera bodies. And, it'd be like, hey, we gotta, be careful there. That's my truck payment, so It's a very unique situation. And I'm just happy to be doing it. Hopefully it continues and keep powering along.
No, that's awesome, man. You guys have done a really good job, building an audience I know you've been around for a while, but the podcast is only about, what is it? 2 years? 2 years old?
Not quite. Full year. Yep. 1.5. And we started it in January of 2020. So it'll be 2 in this coming, or wait, did it just turn 2? Shoot, I don't know. I
think you guys started a little before me, but not a lot.
Okay.
I guess maybe it'll be 3 in January.
Yeah, you're right. It is going to be 3
because it'll be 2 for me in January. And I remember actually when I was starting, I was looking at you guys and different stuff, and I think I remember that you guys were about a year ahead of me. But you did a really good job of building, an audience in a pretty short amount of time. And I love on your videos, you guys are just you're just so real. It's just you guys. It's not, you guys aren't trying to be. No filter. It's just you guys just get super stoked and whatever, which I love. But what do you think some of the contributing factors have been to kind of building an audience so quickly and so well?
I don't know, man. I struggle with that too. I try to obviously there's some people out there that do it better and faster and have, way bigger audiences, like super fast. One of the biggest ones that I can kick you over to, if you're into the fishing at all, his name is Northwest Fishing Secrets. He's only like 2 years old and he's got 500,000 or more.
Wow.
And it's just a super rapid growth. And, you're always looking at that and be like, wow, how can I, emulate that or replicate that kind of growth? And then there's another Washington creator, solo dude by the name of Samung Yang, Outside.
I've seen some of his stuff. Like, you guys do a little bit of stuff with him, right?
Yeah, we've collabed with him. And, his growth is just on a damn catapult too. And it's crazy, man. Like, but you look around, and to answer your question, I think you kind of hit the head of it. What we kind of targeted to do was just, hey, let's be us. Let's document what we do, being who we truly are. And if people want to be on board with that, then sweet, hit the subscribe button. If you're not on board with that, go to someone else. And that's kind of what has dictated our like driving ability going forward. Is just, we're not going to change anything. We're not going to, like, the only thing that will maybe change out of a video is maybe that's completely unnecessary cursing or foul language. If it's necessary where you're like, holy shit, that just fucking happened, I'm gonna leave that. I'm leaving that because that's just true real life.
Dang, I gotta bleep you now.
Oh, sorry. I won't do it again. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
If it's something like raw and organic like that, I'll typically leave it. Yeah. But if it's just like, it's completely unnecessary, just a couple guys, shooting the crap and something flies, I'll beep that like you just did there. If it's something like that, then I'll cut it out. If it's just completely raw, this is in the moment, it truly happened, I'm just going to let it go. Yeah. And we do get comments on that where you're like, hey man, I really wish you guys wouldn't do that because I'd love to have my son watch. And that kind of hurts because you're like, dang it, are we not a group that, you'd be comfortable watching with your kids? And then some people are just totally okay with it and realize that your kid's probably going to hear worse language than that. And at school or on the school bus or whatever, if they're in middle school or high school, they're going to hear stuff like that. But elementary, probably not. But we do get comments like that. And we always question ourselves like, hey, are we doing the right thing? Should we, try to clean it up and edit it and take care of that? Or should we just keep being ourselves and let that grow? And that's kind of the path we've been on. It's just trying to stay true to who we are. Yeah. Just document everything that's out there and show it how it really happens.
Yeah. I think authenticity is huge. I think just from an outsider's perspective looking in, I think one thing you guys have done really well too is just like building kind of like regional pride, like people that are like stoked for like this is their area, and like even with a thing like a podcast and a YouTube channel that's like, can go anywhere. I've found that that's very popular. Like another, East Coast guy like Bo Martonic, he's at East Meets West. He's done a really good job of that too, kind of building a tribe in that Pennsylvania kind of area that just really identify with him, and so I think that could be a part of it. But I am a little bit interested in, do you guys, okay, this is probably a really dumb question, but do you guys have Columbia blacktail out there?
Yeah, we do. Yep.
Is that the main deer you guys are hunting, or are you hunting mule deer?
We target mule deer on the east side of the state. Okay. The west side of the state is predominantly, I'll break it down for you. If it's on the western side of the Pacific Crest Trail, it is considered a blacktail, a Columbia blacktail. If it's on the eastern side of the Pacific Crest Trail, it is considered a mule deer. We do have whitetails on the eastern side of the state. So as far as, all the way over to Spokane to the Cascades, you'll find whitetails, river bottoms, lower country. But the state has determined the west and east side of the PCT is the divider of blacktails and mule deer. Okay. And there's some units that share that boundary or not some units that share it, but that is the boundary of most units. Yeah. Where over here is mule deer. And then this line in the sand is the PCT, and that side is blacktail. And you absolutely see what people call bench legs. We're like, hey, that's a mule deer, but it's got a blacktail, or vice versa. You're like, hey, that's a blacktail, but it's got a mule deer's tail and big old rack and bigger ears. And so you'll see bench leg talks all the time in our forums and people posting them, and you're like, that's bench definitely
like a hybrid.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Yeah, you'll see a bench leg that has characteristics of a blacktail and a mule deer, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a bench leg buck. Or
Yeah.
you'll see people that, again, they end up being cops immediately when they shoot a mule deer, and then they'd say like, hey, I shot on the west side of the PCT. And the big divider is the west side is any buck.
Okay.
And the east side has to be a 3-point minimum. So that's where there's some kind of like, you get the people being cops and like, hey, that's not a 2 or that's not a 3-point. You're like, yeah, well, I shot it in a Western unit, which in that high country stuff, you do get them crossing the lines because they don't care. It's just an imaginary line for them.
Yeah.
So you get it all the time.
That's interesting. I shot a buck. I'm looking at him right now last year in Virginia, and he's got a double throat patch. It's just interesting. Like, I wonder how, like, he got that. Like, we're nowhere near any type of mule deer or blacktail, but yeah, man. So, cross my fingers, Lord willing, I have an opportunity to hopefully kill a mule deer and a coos deer this year. So then if I do that, all I will need is my Columbia to finish the slam.
Oh, man, come on out.
Yeah, I'm interested in, I've already got, you can see the edge of my whiteboard. I'm already scheming on 2023. So I'm trying to think I'm just kind of asking people about like opportunity for non-residents in Washington, Oregon for Columbia blacktails. So is there a pretty good opportunity for non-residents out that way?
100%.
I just started buying points too, like this year, but
what weapon would you like to do it with?
Rifle or muzzleloader or bow. I mean, I'm not against bow hunting. I love bow hunting. I grew up bow hunting. It's just for me, trying to get content and also going completely blind into places I've never been. If I can grab a rifle and kind of increase my odds a little bit, like I'm usually down for that.
Yeah, 100%, man. I would say we do have for blacktails. Absolutely, it's any buck. You could make it a really fun hunt and go to some wilderness areas on this side of the mountains and get up into some beautiful alpines and hunt blacktails like you would a mule deer and have an awesome time. Or you can hunt that kind of more traditional coastal rainforest, logging road country and get into bucks fairly easily. Washington, I think, is great.
Is that you can over the counter for non-resident? Any buck, you're saying?
Yes, it is.
Wow, okay.
Over the counter, any buck.
That first one you're talking about, is that kind of spot and stalk style hunt, like backcountry?
Yep.
Do you need a local friend or whatever to go in wilderness, like Wyoming?
Nope, you do not. So you could come out here. You could go on the high buck hunt, September 15th to the 25th. Any wilderness areas, and it's any buck. You could go have a blast up there. I could definitely send you in the right direction, drop you some pins.
Nice.
Hell, maybe I could just go with you and we could do a combo like
awesome.
black bear hunt with it. And that's the cool thing about Washington. A buddy of mine just was looking at coming up from Utah and hunting black bears, and it was like $220 for a black bear tag, non-resident, out the door, $220. And you get 2 of those over the counter in Washington, and the season opens August 1st. So you could come out here and do black bear and a black tail tag, or like hunt, do a week-long hunt and do both tags. And we could
deer
go up
opens August 1st too.
Deer opens September 1st for archery. And then that first early rifle season starts September 15th.
Oh, so you're saying August is when the bear comes in.
Yes.
And then deer comes in. But that's still like, because I'm always also looking for ways to extend my seasons, like start earlier and later. So so that's cool timing.
Definitely. Yeah. I always tell people that too. I'm like, hey, August 1st, it kicks off. And they're like, whoa, that's kind of before anything else in the West is really going.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 2-3 bears dead in the first 5 days of the season. So by August 5th, we already had 3 bears down. So as soon as that season opens, it's already getting good. We've already scouted bears. We know where they're kind of hanging out with. And like July to late July, we'll be out scouting, kind of covering country, seeing what the berries are doing, seeing what vegetation's like, where the bear's hanging out at, covering country. And then as soon as the season opens, we're usually already hot on them.
Yeah. Are the deer, how are the deer numbers? Are they pretty decent? Or is it like, because their parts, out here with whitetails, if you're in ag country, you're going to see deer. But if you're on the mountains, you could go 2-3 days, not see a thing.
Yeah.
Is it like that out there, or is it pretty good numbers?
Yeah, it is. It's like that. I would definitely say that Washington's probably not the greatest deer hunting around. But there is some definite cool country you can go hunt and still dig up some bucks. And especially if you're wanting to target blacktail, admittedly, I haven't targeted blacktails a ton. Actually, never in my life have I targeted them. I've always been a mule deer guy.
Yeah.
But I see them when we bear hunt, the west side, we'll see bucks and it's just like, oh, there's a blacktail buck. I could care zero. Like there's a negative scale on my scale. That's where blacktails.
So you wouldn't have a problem giving me your sweet blacktail knowledge.
Absolutely not. I will drop you as many pins as I possibly could.
Nice.
And like you could just, if you double that and come for like high buck, you'll absolutely see a bear too. And you could take a bear out of here too. That'd and just kind of double it up. And I would imagine, I don't know what deer is for non-res. You'll probably have to look into it. I could look into it and help you out.
Yeah, I can look into it.
But I would imagine it's going to be in like another 220. You come out for deer and bear for $500.
That'd be
over
cool,
over the counter and kind of spend like a 10-day trip out here somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Love to link up with you guys for something.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Well, yeah, are you guys going back to the expo this year?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something
cool.
Something that we've loved to do, and it's just it's fruitful now, man. You go meet people and
dude, it's so
shake
fruitful.
hands.
Yeah,
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's one of the if you are listening to this and you've never made it out to the hunting expo in Salt Lake City, Utah, it's in like early February, and
it's the 2nd through 5th this year.
2nd through 5th. There you go. 2nd through 5th of February, and it is one of the most fun things that we get to do. Even if you're not going and representing a brand or a business, just to walk through that place, absolutely remarkable. Yeah. Absolutely remarkable. Tons
of cool stuff, and you'll probably see famous hunters everywhere. Like you'll probably see Cam Haines,
Yep.
Lampers, everybody,
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw Nate Simmons, I started shaking.
Oh, dude, Nate is the man.
I love Nate, man.
Dude, Nate is the one dude that I totally fanboyed out on.
Same here.
Waited in line to go talk to him.
100%, man. I was talking to Jason Phelps. He's a local Washington guy too.
Yeah.
So I've known Phelps for a long time, and to the point where I've gone down and helped him at his booth in Salt Lake City, in 2017. So just a great friend of mine. And I was sitting there talking to Jason. This is last year, and I was talking to Jason, and Nate walks up, and I just look over, and it was Nate, and I was like, complete fangirled out. Yeah. Didn't know what to say, and then Jason was like, "Hey, Nate, this is my buddy Jeff," and I was like,
"Yeah." That was telling me. I did the awkward thing where I saw him and he was talking to somebody else, and I walked circles around him, pretending not to be creepy, but waited till there was an opening and swooped in to go talk to him, and he was so nice, talked to me forever, and I tried to get him to come on the podcast, but he politely declined. But I'm gonna keep working.
Keep bugging him, yeah.
Yeah.
This is right after we won the Western Hunting Film Expo for Tamarack.
Oh, yeah.
And so, that was my one in. So that was, the one thing I could say to him. I was like, hey, yeah, I just wanted to thank you for putting on the Western Hunting Film Expo. We actually won it. And then, so that was, that was my icebreaker. Rather than just being like, I love you.
You're a really good hunter.
Yeah. Your voice is so good on your TV show.
No, but he is awesome, dude. I love that.
Oh my gosh.
I love that show, man.
Me too. Huge inspiration. Inspiration.
I put my Kodiak film in the Western Hunt Film Festival this year.
Nice, dude. Hell yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Very cool.
But yeah, man. Coming up on an hour here, so I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know you guys are busy. But I really enjoyed talking to you, man.
Me too, man. We'll have to do it again. Have to get you on ours. It was really cool.
Yeah, I'd love to, man. Anytime. And I'd love to link up with you guys out at the expo again and just hang out for a little bit or whatever.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's grab a bite and kind of hang out and I love just bouncing ideas off other creators and it's always fun too, man.
It's like I said, I'm kind of a one-man band still, so I love talking with people just that, because it's especially where I'm at on the East Coast, it's such a rare thing. It's already rare, people really grinding and trying to do this kind of creative thing and do it on your own and all that. But then going in another niche into the outdoor industry and then another niche, there's not many people out here that I can really have these conversations with. So I love it. So.
Yeah, totally, man. And I can see where you're coming from and putting in that grind. And that's kind of the cool thing that we share. It's you can respect those other creators doing that grind, man. And and you likewise for us is like you have a different respect and perspective of what we're all doing, and
Absolutely.
that's a really cool thing. So yeah, absolutely, man. Let's grab a bite and just bounce ideas off each other and catch up for sure.
For sure, dude. Well, where can people find you if they want to check out y'all's stuff?
Just head over to Instagram at Pacific North Wild or PNWild, and then YouTube, Facebook, all the same thing, Pacific North Wild or PNWild. So PNWild, little play on words there. And then podcast as well, just the PNWild podcast. It's all based here, Washington State. Mostly our podcasts are all Pacific Northwest, revolving around the PNW. We do have a couple out-of-state hunts on there, Montana spring bear, Wyoming elk hunt.
What hunts? You got Wyoming elk, what else?
All three of us drew Montana deer this year, so we're all going to Montana.
Oh, dude, me too.
In November. Are you really?
Yeah.
Are you going to go for like November time?
Yep. Mid-November.
Same here, dude.
Yeah.
All right. Off air, we'll talk about where we're going.
Yeah.
Maybe we can link up.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we all drew Montana deer, and then I drew my Wyoming elk this year, so I leave in 3 days. And then
is that a general tag or the controlled?
It's a general.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
How many points did you draw it on?
I want to say 5. It was either 4 or 5.
Okay. I got 3 next year, and Go Hunt's telling me I should draw it, but I don't know.
Oh, that's going to be tight. That's going to be tight. Go special. Okay. Go special.
Oh, always.
Yeah. I think I did 5 regular, if I remember right. I did 5 regular.
Okay.
I know I had 5. I was a 5 regular because next year I'll have 6 deer. So I know I had 5.
Okay. So you got that, then Montana deer, and then.
Yep. I'm filling the gaps with Washington stuff. So
Sweet.
Washington deer season will be October 15th through the 25th. And then, just over-the-counter Washington stuff. Take the family and the kids out for deer. And then the last one will wrap up with Montana deer.
Sweet, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, dude. It was great talking to you. And, we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate you so much.
Yeah, man. All right.
All right. Bye, guys.